Hey, this is Scott from Bonsai. Today I'm going to talk about the Fujifilm X100F. This is the fourth in the X100 series. They follow that Kaizen approach, which is continuous improvements throughout each iteration. It has a retro rangefinder style design with metal panels, metal dials, very solid build quality. The camera is understated, especially the black version. Very few logos on the camera visible. Most of the information such as serial number are hidden near the ports behind a closed door. Specs wise, the camera has X-Trans aps-c size sensor, the usual 23mm f2 lens, which is a 35mm equivalent in full frame terms. Of course, the lens is fixed and also has a reversed mounting thread for accessories such as teleconverters or a hood. It does have a mic port that acts also as an external shutter release, micro HDMI port, USB port that acts as a charging port, which is great. And autofocus wise, it has hybrid phase contrast detection. One of the most important features of this camera is its leaf shutter. It's very unique, and the max sync speed of that leaf shutter is the maximum speed of the shutter itself. So 1/4000th of a second you can also fire your flash at, which is a great feature. It does have an electronic shutter as well. It goes up to 1/32,000th of a second. One of the new features of this camera is the battery. It has an NPW126S size battery, which is larger than previous generations. You can probably get around 100 photos extra over the original X100. Great thing about this camera is it has so many tactile controls. If you want to do full manual mode, all you have to do is switch the 3 exposure triangle controls. You've got your aperture, shutter speed, and ISO right there, easy to access. Yet another feature of this camera that's unique is the hybrid viewfinder. You have optical plus electronic. In this case, you can also have optical plus an electronic preview for focus in a little picture-in-picture situation. It has an extremely beautiful optical viewfinder. So if you're into that, this is one of the best cameras to use. The LCD itself is 3 inches. Very nice, sharp, colorful LCD screen. Camera has 7 buttons that you can customize to various functions to configure the camera how you would like it to be. One additional tactile control that I have not mentioned yet is the exposure compensation. You can do up to +3 or -3 directly on the control, but you can also switch it to a command function, and it allows you to use one of the dials instead for ±5 stops. You can adjust the autofocus frame size, at least in photo mode. I don't think you can do it in video mode. What you do in photo mode is you make sure your LCD screen is on. You press the joystick nub for selecting focus points. At that point, you want to use the back scroll wheel left or right to change the size of that autofocus frame. It's definitely helpful in many situations where you want a smaller focus point or maybe a larger one. The camera does manual focus, of course. It works pretty well in my testing so far. You just switch the camera to manual focus with the left switch. At that point, you use the control wheel near the lens to either focus forward or backward. It's focused by wire, but it really works pretty well as I've seen so far. So let's look at the viewfinder in a little bit more detail. You've got the optical, of course, plus the EVF. Optical has the picture-in-picture focusing screen that you can pop up, which is really cool. In optical, you have a white rectangular frame line to see where your picture is going to be approximately. The reason it's there is that not the entire screen in optical mode is part of the photo, which is useful in many situations where you're trying to photograph a moving subject. Before they come in the frame, you can see them in the optical viewfinder, which is nice. Another reason it's there is because of parallax. If you're focusing closer to the camera in that viewfinder that doesn't use the lens, the framing will change. The camera itself will adjust the framing as you half press the shutter button to show you where approximately the photo will be. There is a setting called corrected AF frame. It's in the AF manual focus settings area of the camera. I would suggest turning that on. It just shows you a little extra box on the screen for the direction of framing based on parallax. So that's a nice setting to have. This camera's digital EVF is really nice. I can't complain about it. I've been using it a decent amount of times. There's some situations where having that EVF is a lot more convenient than the optical, but it's nice to have both, really. This is the perfect setup to have your cake and eat it too. It's a nice refresh rate. I really can't complain about the EVF. So let's get into some of the menu settings and we'll go over a few interesting features or key features, different things that are useful to take note of. Of course, the camera has RAW, can be compressed or uncompressed. I used uncompressed most of the time. Autofocus mode, single point, which is the one I use most of the time. Zone zone and wide tracking. Wide tracking is basically letting the camera decide, which could be good in a few situations such as continuous autofocus of subjects. Zone can be useful if you want just large general areas to be in focus. It does have 91 autofocus points and 325. I usually use 91. I really don't need the super fine control of focus. I mean, it really depends on the situation. So a few of the other key autofocus features: it has pre-AF, which the camera continues to focus before you press the shutter button. That way it'll be potentially a little quicker to get that picture. Does have an AF Illuminator, which is pretty standard. Face and eye detection, various options in that case, which I'll get to in video a little bit. Does have an autofocus plus manual focus mode, so once you have press, you can adjust further with the manual focus wheel on the front of the camera. Does have manual focus assist modes. That means the peaking, split image focus. Those are pretty cool. Mechanical shutter and electronic shutter, or you can use both at the same time depending on the shutter speed needed. You can only do 100 ISO with the mechanical shutter, just take note of that. Auto ISO settings, you have 3 blocks that you can adjust to have different ranges of ISO with that important minimum shutter speed setting. Of course, the camera does have a built-in flash, pretty easy to use. You can either turn it on or off, or you can use an external flash with that Hotshoe. Movie mode's relatively basic. You've got 1080p, around 60 frames a second maximum. Camera has 2 AF modes in video. You've got multi and area. Area is basically where you can select a general spot to focus on, which is the one that I use. Now the camera can attempt to focus on your face. This is good if you're trying to do a selfie slash vlog type situation. You want to set your camera to multi-focus and then have the face eye detection on. So that attempts to focus on your face in those situations or someone else's face, which I see it as a pretty good feature for video. So this camera, of course, is not perfect. So I'll be going over the things that I dislike and like about the camera. The lens extends and contracts when you turn the camera on and off. That means it's going to be slower to start up, and I would prefer the lens to be fully internalized. Hopefully in the future, if they continue to revise this type of camera, they'll make that lens internal. I actually left the cap on once and turned the camera on and had an autofocus error, so that wasn't good. It didn't hurt the camera as far as I can tell. I think that's a feature that they put into it, but usually what I do is, now that I have the hood adapter, I just leave that on with a UV filter and it's good to go all the time. I don't have to mess with it. The back LCD has some flex, especially in the corners. I wish it was more solid like a Pentax, which they use a really solid screen in the back, at least the ones that I had used. I would think dust could potentially get in the corners, and I mean, it's unlikely, but it's possible. I don't really like the battery door design. It's easy to accidentally open. I've had 1 or 2 times at least where I've been walking around and didn't realize the door was open. The Q button is in an irritating spot. I press it by accident sometimes and I really don't use that feature much at all. I would prefer it to be between the AEL and rear dial. I think that would be a much better spot. The tripod mount isn't in line with the lens. It's irritating in various situations. I don't do too much with tripod except video, but it would be nice to have it in line somehow. I'm guessing it's just space reasons, which isn't a huge deal, but it would be nice. Some of the setting defaults confuse me. It doesn't default to high performance mode. With the large battery, it really should just be in high performance mode. I haven't noticed any battery issues, and it's significantly faster in that high performance mode. In video mode, it defaults to multi-focus, which you can't do anything. That means the camera just focuses how it feels like in video mode. It should really be set to area focus by default. The camera doesn't have the corrected AF frame in optical viewfinder mode enabled by default, and it's confusing to me because it is a really nice little feature to have. X-trans sensor support still feels kind of lackluster. I use ACDsee Ultimate 10 and it does not have GPU assisted processing for that specific sensor, and I noticed a difference between that and my 24 megapixel Nikon full frame RAWs. Space is limited on this camera, but it would be very, very nice to have 2 SD card slots. I'm sure people who want to use this professionally would really like to have 2 card slots, so maybe they could figure something out. Camera does have Wi-Fi, but I think the app and related things need some work. You can only go into one mode and then you have to disconnect, reconnect your Wi-Fi. It's just kind of goofy. So there are a lot of things I like about this camera. I'm just going to go over the biggest ones right now. Of course, it's very highly customizable. So many buttons, so many tactile controls. It's really amazing in that sense. You have 7 buttons you can change the mode of. It's really great. Of course, that direct auto manual transition with ISO, aperture, shutter speed controls. That's perfect. There's a nice large battery. I know this is new for this version of the camera, but it's very nice. I haven't noticed any battery issues. It's really great. This camera does have a flash Hotshoe on it if it's ever needed. That does lend it to have a professional use in some situations, or great for the combination of leaf shutter and flash to have that external Hotshoe. Really cool feature that's probably not noticed that often is that it has USB charging, and it also comes with a charger. That means you can charge 2 batteries on the go. I take photos at conventions, so it's really great to be able to charge 2 batteries when I'm done for the day, because I can leave that one in the camera, and then if I had switched one earlier in the day, I'll charge that in the actual charger. I bought this camera for the optical viewfinder, but the EVF is very nice as well, and it's grown on me. There are some situations where the EVF is nice to use instead. Leaf shutter is great. It's very unique. It's helpful in flash situations. I'm really glad that it has a leaf shutter. It does have that built-in ND filter, which is a nice combination with the leaf shutter. Helps out in many situations. And I know I said a few bad things about the Wi-Fi, but it is very nice to have Wi-Fi in the camera. So now I'm going to look at photos that I've taken and show you some results. So let's actually start here. Look at it in detail. See a little bit of grain and moire. Very, very sharp. You can even see the texture of the contact lens right there. That's really sharp. That's f2.8. So there's the original, and then this is the edit. So all that detail is still in there even when it was overexposed. Next one, before we get into these photos, I'll just say I'm not a furry. I went to a furry convention though with a friend, so that's what these photos are from. Let's look at it up close. A lot of nice detail here. There's a little bit of color fringing on this bus, or actually it's a UPS truck. But definitely get a lot of nice detail. You can tell that she looks pregnant. This was on top of a convention center. Check the edges, of course. You can see some color fringing, red and green. So that is definitely one thing about this lens I'm not too thrilled about, is that color fringing that it has. This is at f5.6, so you can even see it at 5.6. There's some pattern coloration, and that it's probably moire, some type of moire. That was f5.6. You can see the support beams. Very nice. Trees, that's a good indication of sharpness, is when you don't have those blotchy trees. This has some pretty nice detail in those trees, especially back here. Another one, nice and sharp here. You can see a little bit of moire or something. There's some green color fringing. It's a nice dark photo with strong lighting. You can see some purple fringing here. Oh, there's some pretty strong purple fringing out there, but I mean that's a extreme case of lighting. So here's a cool photo. This was taken at this rave thing that I took a few pictures at. ISO 1250. Still very sharp for this situation. Here's another one from that. Again, the noise is not terrible. This camera, the X-Trans, definitely has a natural look to the grain, which is a very nice feature of that sensor type. So I really can't complain about this. So the great thing about this lens, the 35mm equivalent, is that you can use it in these convention situations, just hallway shots. It's kind of the perfect lens for that situation. So you can get these full body shots and also get close-ups very easily. Same camera, same lens. You just move a little bit and then you've got both types of framing very quickly and easily. Lower ISO than I would have expected for that situation. So this one is very, very sharp. That's great. Look at those, even the detail on the nose you can see. So I think most of the photos is just going to be very sharp, some color fringing. So hopefully we'll find something else to talk about. This is really nice. I think I used a flash, maybe. Not too sure. ISO 2000. See, it definitely has a significant amount of grain, but still a lot of detail in this. You can even see the eye holes in his eye here. I don't see any blotching. Still have some texture to his nose. Usually reds are the... I see a little bit of blotchiness in the reds. But I was saying usually the reds in high ISO situations are the first ones to go bad. So there is some loss of detail, I think, around here, but not terrible. Next one. This one, ISO 3200. Now, that noise doesn't look terrible. Nice amount of detail in this area. I think I was supporting this on a ledge or something. Have some color fringing here. The purple. This red here is from the light. I'm pretty sure that purple is just color fringing. But yeah, that nighttime shot, not too bad. Next one, same situation. I think I got the exposure a little better in this one, so the noise isn't as noticeable. Very, very nice. For APS-C, I really can't complain. So it keeps that sharpness even through those high ISOs. This one, ISO 500, more noise than I would have expected. I might have edited this one. Let's look. Going to develop, and I'm going to cycle the edits. Oh yeah. So I significantly increased the exposure on this one. Oh wow. That's super, super sharp. Here's a video. Not really sure what it was taken at this moment. Here are a quick few photos from a Renaissance fair, the Bristol Renaissance Fair in Wisconsin. Nice crowd shot. See all the printing texture for this one. Right on the edges. This is a cool photo of the jousting at this Renaissance fair. See a little bit of color fringing on his metal armor there. And my friends taking a photo. Nice sharp photo again with the color fringing. That was f2.8 ISO 640. Here's some photos from a local Japanese garden. Nice amount of detail here. ISO 200F 5.6. Really can't complain about this one. Has a significant amount of sharpness to it. So I could see this being used for nature, landscape stuff. Of course, 35mm lens isn't perfect for some of those situations, but if you're trying to take a picture of a vista or something, I think it'll work out pretty nicely. This one is probably overexposed a little bit. Still looks nice and sharp. Let's see if we can get those details back. Just crank this one up. Alright, tell the program's a little slow with these RAWs. Yeah, look at that. Very nice. Here's the last set that I'm going to go over. A few people that I know. This was a small anime convention, or I should say just small friend convention. Very sharp photo. Background's good. Very, very sharp. Right there. Really nothing to complain about in this situation. ISO 200. There's a little bit of grain for some reason. I think I edited this significantly. Let's check. There we go. Yeah, that's a significant exposure change. As you can see, not too bad. Fixing your photographing mistakes or just working with the situation. You can fix things up pretty easily with this camera. Zoom in. Pretty sharp. Nothing to complain about. Let's look at this one in a little bit more detail. See what I edited. Again, this one artificial fill light added. Would I recommend an X100F? Definitely. Nice solid camera. So many unique features. They are very unique. That means it'll probably take you some time to get used to the camera, but after that, it's hard to go wrong with this camera. Super versatile, small, compact, yet powerful, great sensor, nice lens. Really hard to go wrong with this camera. Of course, there are previous versions. You can consider those and save some money, which is fine. But if you want everything, you want all the new cool stuff, you want a bigger battery and all that, go for this version. Spend some more. Really nice, great camera. So that was the X100F. I'm Scott from Photography Bonsai. Thanks.